Let's talk about the Commonwealth of Dominica. This small island nation is at a massive crossroads. It's starting the single largest infrastructure project in its entire history, and it's sparking a debate that cuts right to the very heart of its identity.
You see, Dominica's whole identity, its brand to the world, is built on just one phrase: the nature island. Its entire economy, its way of life, it's all tied to its pristine rainforests and rivers. And we're not just talking about a catchy marketing slogan here. This is literally the foundation of the nation.
So, what's at the center of this whole debate? Well, it's this: a $370 million international airport. It's an enormous investment that is designed to completely reshape the country's future.
But here's the thing. Instead of uniting the country around this big idea, the project is actually tearing it apart. It's pitting progress against preservation. So what in the world is going on here?
Okay, so to really get what's happening, we have to look at the stakes. This airport, it's not just about making travel easier. It's a massive, all-in bet on the country's economic future.
The government's vision, while it's pretty straightforward, a new 3,000-meter runway would mean direct flights from Europe and North America. They're hoping to, and this is their word, leapfrog economic growth. The idea is to supercharge tourism and get their agricultural exports to global markets way faster. Now, the crucial part is how it's funded, through their Citizenship by Investment program. This is where foreigners can invest in the country to get a passport. And the government argues this is the key, right? It's a path to prosperity without taking on massive debt.
And right there, you see the fundamental split. The government sees this as a gateway to a modern, prosperous future. But on the other side, you've got critics who see a project that threatens the very soul of the nature island, arguing the true cost is way more than just dollars and cents.
But look, this debate isn't just about economics. It's digging up this deep political fault line, and it's raising some really tough questions about governance, transparency, and who you can trust.
So a huge part of the public anger comes down to the contract itself. I mean, think about it. This huge, nation-defining project was just handed to a developer, MMCE, with no competitive bidding. This no-bid contract has become a real lightning rod for criticism.
So, naturally, opposition parties and activists are crying foul. They're saying this creates what they call a monopoly building situation, which basically means the public has no way of knowing the true cost or if they're even getting a fair deal for their money.
And all of this has just fueled these widespread calls for transparency. Everyone is focused on one key document, the Environmental and Social Impact Assessment, or ESIA. Look, people just want to see the report, right? They want the data on how this monster project is going to affect their homes and their environment. But getting their hands on it, that's been a real battle.
And you know, this impact isn't just some abstract idea on paper. It has a very real, very human cost. And that brings us to this crucial question of rights for local communities and for Dominica's indigenous people.
I mean, just to build this airport, entire communities in the Wesley area have had to be moved. We're talking about homes, farms, a whole way of life just uprooted. And that, of course, raises serious questions about land rights, fair compensation, and preserving local heritage.
This brings in a really critical international standard. It's called FPIC. It stands for Free, Prior, and Informed Consent. And basically, it's a principle that says indigenous peoples have the right to give or withhold their consent for projects that affect them and their lands. It's all about making sure there's a real partnership, not just a government checking a box. And while that's exactly the problem here, the Kalinago Council, which represents Dominica's indigenous people, is saying flat out that this never happened. They say they were ignored, that those crucial environmental reports weren't even shared with them, and that this is a clear violation of their rights under those FPIC principles.
Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of the environmental fight. This nature island paradox, where what the airport needs seems to clash directly with what the island is.
All right, think about this. To build a runway that massive, you need millions and millions of tons of rock. The government decided to get that rock from a site called Dou Branches. And the big question everyone is asking is this just a simple quarry, or is there something else going on?
And you've got two completely different stories here. The government insists it's just quarrying basalt aggregate, the type of rock you need for construction. But activists and opponents have a very different take. They claim this whole thing is a cover for secretly mining valuable minerals, like copper and gold, which people knew were in that area.
Now, these weren't just rumors. The claims got a huge boost from a Bombshell independent report by geologist, Professor Simon Mitchell, and what he found was pretty shocking. The rock has been damaged by something called hydrothermal alteration. Basically, hot water has weakened it from the inside, making it potentially unsafe for a runway. Not what you want to hear, right? He also confirmed there was copper there and concluded the site just doesn't have the strong, uniform geology you need for a project this critical.
So, with the battle lines drawn on all these fronts, political, social, and scientific, the entire project and really Dominica's whole future is just hanging in the balance.
And the situation has now escalated to a really critical point. The developer, MMCE, has actually started formal arbitration against the government of Dominica. This legal fight could bring the whole thing to a grinding, catastrophic halt, leaving the nation's biggest dreams stuck in limbo.
You know, what's happening in Dominica isn't some isolated case. It's really a powerful snapshot of a challenge that's playing out all over the world, especially in developing nations. It's that classic tug-of-war, right? Economic development versus the rule of law, national sovereignty versus environmental protection, indigenous rights versus the need for big infrastructure. It's all there.
And all of this leaves us with one final, and I think really critical question. For Dominica, this airport is a real, tangible path to a better future. But the fight over how it's being built forces everyone to ask a much deeper question. How do you build your future without completely sacrificing your identity?